Welcome back to the channel, you kooks. Today we're working on a client's van, a fellow van kook that has purchased an E350, and he wanted the starter package where the most intimidating work goes down: the framing, not putting holes to the side of your van, electricity, hooking up your solar, running everything behind the wall so it looks really hidden and professional. So we finished this and we're going to show you how we got here. In this episode, we're going to show you how we wired our battery bank, our solar, all the accessories that we use to electrify this van, and we're going to hopefully make it easy for you to replicate.
So, welcome. We're at the new workshop. Got the Easy Up. We're about to get into some work here. So this is basically a starter package. We're getting this van ready to go. We're getting the walls, the electrical, the ceiling, framing, all that stuff done so he can have an empty shell to create the van of his dreams. So here it is. You don't need the fancy in studios. You can do it all off of a sawhorse and a sheet of plywood. So now we're going to start back to the basis. We worked with Adam yesterday and got a layout done, and we put all of our tape where all of our electronics are going to be. So we're going to get the wiring going. We're going to start off with having the battery bank down in this corner, and then we're just going to run wire from there. We got the essentials to start any project for wiring. We got the 16 gauge red and black, the 14 gauge red and black, and the 12. So we're going to get started. And we got the plastic conduit, or I'm sure you guys on the internet will tell me what it's really called. So we are starting off with the 16 gauge, and this is a good gauge for your LED lights and LED accessories since they don't take much power. So we're going to run those just up and through the roof and hang them down where they need to go. So one of the first steps of doing your van build is going to be wiring. We left some open gaps in the insulation because we didn't quite know the layout and where Adam wanted all his electronics. Now we know, so we're gonna tuck some wiring back behind the insulation and back behind the van paneling. So we got some holes drilled, and we're just gonna run this plastic conduit to protect our wires, and now we're just gonna get more into it. Okay, so once you have all your wires ran, we put our insulation over it, our Reflectix and our Thinsulate, and we have a great video on how we did that. Adam already had a Max fan installed, so that made our life a little bit easier, and we just ran a 14 gauge red and black cable to it, and we'll get the butt connectors and we'll crimp these wires and we'll cut everything up and tuck it in nicely. And that's kind of how you do each appliance at a time. You'll just kind of address each once. I recommend leaving quite a bit of slack wire at the end, because sometimes you'll get into place with your walls on and you'll be like, how are we going to cut that hole? So just make sure to leave some slack for each individual accessory when you are wiring it. So we have some switches ready to roll. So the thing about the switches is you're going to run basically a positive lead from the battery to the switch, and then a positive lead from the switch, let's say, to your lights. So keep that in mind when you do a switch. It can trick people, but now we're all wired up, and now we're going to get into the next section of doing the electronics, and that's going to be, we're going to get the battery bank going, and we're going to wire all of our distribution panels, our solar charge controller. We're going to put our solar panels on the roof. So that's next. In between this step, you can jump to a framing video. We're going to start with the solar panels here. Adam got the Renogy starter kit. It comes with two 100-watt panels, and they have these Z brackets. They're pretty straightforward. You just bolt them on like so, but I'll show you what this kit comes with. Step into the workshop. So it comes with a decent amount of wire, some extra wiring for your charge controller, and then some MC4 connections to get the panels in parallel. And we're not the biggest fan of this Wanderer, so we had him pick up one of these. one of these MPPT by Epiver or whatever. Shout out to Will Perot's. But yeah, it's this silver one here, and you'll see it when we install it here in a bit. We got our solar wire gland. It's going to be here. The panels are going to go in between the fan, and then it comes down through. And Danny is marking positive and negative because they're both black and it's confusing. So make sure you keep a mark on which one's which if you get this starter kit. Danny's just running it down through these cavities, and it's just gonna go all the way down and be nice and clean and out of the way.
That is the plan.
This is where the distribution panel is gonna be. So this is kind of where we have all the wires from all over the van come out, and we have them all labeled. So we write with a Sharpie and blue tape what everything is. So then when we get our distribution panel in place, we will just plug everything in. But this is how we like to do it. We like to just have them all come out one piece of loom here. And then we got our solar panel cords coming down through the van, out down the bottom here. And then this is our battery isolator cord, and that runs all the way to the engine. So yeah, just when you're wiring this, just try to get everything into one central location. It's gonna make your life easy. And now let's dive into more action.
And then another thing that you want to keep in mind is you want your solar input to be as close to the battery bank as possible. Adam did want his solar panels in front at first, but we found out that we could put them right next to the fan in the back because we wanted the because we wanted the wire to be shortest. We didn't want it to run all the way from the front of the van all the way to the back of the van. So make sure to keep that as short as possible.
And yeah, with that being said, let's get up on the roof and show you what we're going to do with those solar panels. And we're on the roof, and we're going to put the solar panels here. He's got this like steel mesh, and we're just going to put the hole through. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get a bolt in there. It's gonna be interesting, but we'll figure it out. I'll start with the easy ones on the sides. Watching the Renogy Z mounts here. I got some bolts, some flat washers, and some locking washers and nylocks. Highly recommend using the nylocks. They're gonna hold it on through the vibrations. It's something like you'd see on a skateboard. So look for nylock when you're attaching anything that's gonna be taking some vibration.
And that fits nicely.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so we're wiring the batteries in parallel now, and I'm just cutting and crimping on some terminal ends. And what you do is you'll just strip your wire, and then you'll grab one of these terminal ends, this copper here. You'll slip it on here, and then you'll crimp it down. And you're gonna do negative to negative and positive to positive, and we'll make a 200 amp hour battery bank here. All right, so I added some heat shrink on all the cords just to keep it clean. And I'm gonna use a heat gun. And I'm gonna just heat up my heat shrink and get it on there. All right, so you're gonna need a good solid ground for this battery bank. I like to just grind off some of the paint on the body, and then I just attach a bolt with my negative cord, and I'll put it there. Danny's getting going on the insulation still. The van's all wired. We got our batteries in here. We're figuring it out. I'm running the battery isolator, so I got a 6-gauge wire. It's here, and it runs all the way down. Then it drops down. I'll show you along and under. And I'm just working on running this wire up through the battery. All right, I got my battery isolator in place here. It's blinking because I'm still waiting on a fuse to protect my battery. But yeah, I got the auxiliary going down under the van and the main. Just comes under all this and out and onto here. And it works. I mean, it's blinking. I just got to get that fuse like I said, and it's going to take a while, so I might not be able to show you it, but this is a pretty easy basic thing to do, so don't get too intimidated by this step, and I'll show you the fuse in the back. Back here in the battery bank, this is my inline fuse. You just kind of pop this open and slide an AGU fuse in there, and we got a 80 amp, I believe. So you'll put a fuse there. Okay guys, when you're wiring these lights, always double check which wire is negative and positive. Some of these lights, they'll actually have a black be the positive. So I just tested it on my car battery and it confirmed the light turned on. So black is positive, white is negative. We're wiring the lights now. So you got to daisy chain your lights, and how you do that is you're going to come off your positive lead, and you're going to do a junction, and you're going to start a new wire that'll come up to your other light, and you're going to do that to every light, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so before you get like way too deep in the construction, we like to make sure our power is working and running. So we got our battery bank set up, kind of. I mean, it's powering, and then we just kind of come over and we wire a fuse or a switch. And then Danny will put the black and red to the battery terminals, and then I'll test if they're working on the switch, because if you get too deep and like maybe you crossed a wire or something, you're gonna be pretty bummed. So you would definitely want to do this as far as electrical testing goes before you get too deep into your job. Here's a nice workaround. Instead of buying the inline fuses, they can be expensive. If you just get two female connectors here and put them on, and then I'll get some electrical tape and wrap that up so it doesn't fall out, but it's very snug. But that helps you kind of fuse your switch just to protect it. And then you can see I got all of my labels. I will eventually take these off, but I like to have them until everything is 100%. All right, so we got our light hooked up. Our voltmeters batteries are dead, so this is a good way to test too. So Danny's holding the battery, and I'm over here on my switch, and then I'm just gonna test it. So that works there. And then we're gonna go to each individual wire here and test the light. All right, we got the solar panels wired. I got the parallel connector, MC4 connectors. Everything's hooked up. I just kind of got it zip tied here so they're not flopping around. And it goes down through the gland and into the charge controller, and we got a happy battery, and we got some happy Kookz. All right, we finished all the tongue and groove walls, and now it's time to move on to our battery wiring. So I got the charge controller here mounted. I'm starting just to put the wires into the correct place. So the solar panel's coming up. This is going to be to the battery. And I'm just working on cutting and crimping my wires. So I'm just going to work on this for a while, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Also, when you're all set up, I'm just waiting from Amazon for my breakers. And once they get in, I'm going to have this 30 amp breaker there and a 30 amp breaker on this, just to protect everything. It's recommended. All right, we got everything hooked up. We're running. We got the electronics all wired in. The batteries are all in parallel, and we got all of our cords plugged in here. Blinking light on this unit means it is charging. So we're happy with the outcome. We got the fan running. Everything works. We just need more inline fuses so we could get these lights going. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the electric video on how to wire your van. Hope this helps. Like and subscribe, and if you can support the Kookz. We got merchandise down below. And always thanks for watching, guys, and we hope to see you soon.
Peace out!